Hello, this is Stampy, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. And today I'm going to be talking about how to come up with ideas. And the reason I'm doing this topic is because I've been recently doing a behind the scenes series on this channel where I've been touring my sketchbook world, which is my world where I basically plan everything that I'm going to be doing in my Lovely World videos. And I've also been doing a few videos where I actually show me kind of developing ideas and actually designing things for the Lovely World episodes. But of course, I can't actually show you me kind of coming up with the idea. Like in all of those videos, you're seeing me already with an idea and then me just kind of working it out. And I've been getting a lot of comments from people saying, how do you come up with so many ideas, so regularly, to do a series like Lovely World where, everything I build is something new. So what I thought I'd do is talk a little bit about how I come up with my ideas and to hopefully give you some tips as well. And of course, I'm going to be talking a lot about videos and, particularly in Minecraft, because that's what I'm doing. But I think everything I talk about could be applied to a lot of different things. If you're trying to come up with a story for a book, or you need an idea for a school project or something, I think a lot of the things I'm going to talk about can be applied to a lot of different areas. So hopefully it's going to help you out if you are trying to come up with ideas. So the first thing, and what I consider to be the most important thing, is to always be ready to come up with an idea. So you've all probably had a point where you've been looking at like a blank piece of paper or a blank screen or a blank Minecraft world, and you're trying to come up with an idea. And if you're just looking at nothing, it's hard to have just something spring to mind. You can sometimes brute force it, but that's generally not a good way to come up with an idea. So I think the way I come up with ideas regularly is I kind of cheat a little bit by kind of always being ready to come up with an idea. So rather than picking a time and say, this is when I'm going to go and try and think of something new, just at any point in my life, no matter what's happening, where I am, I'm always ready to kind of take inspiration from something. And I know that probably sounds like a bit of a loose naff phrase. That sounds like something out of like a book, how to come up with 100 ideas or something. But generally, that is what I do. So no matter where I am. So for example, my sheer fun game, it's inside a giant Rubik's Cube, not the most inspired idea in the world. But the reason I decided to do that is because one day I saw a Rubik's Cube and I was like, that's like a really cool design, very iconic, and it would work perfectly in Minecraft. So I wrote it down, Rubik's Cube, and when it came up that I needed to build something, in that shape, that's what I used. And it even more regularly now comes up when I'm playing Minecraft. So the other day I was playing Minecraft and I placed a boat when I was underwater and I saw it really slowly rise to the surface, and I thought, wait a minute, that could be an idea for a minigame. So the idea is just anytime you see anything slightly interesting, make sure you remember it and then write it down. Because if you just think, I'm going to remember that, the chances are you're going to forget it. So I have a big book, and anytime I come up with any sort of idea, whether it's an idea for like a role play episode or like a Stampy short, something, to do in Cave Den or something in Lovely World, like anytime I think of anything interesting, I just make sure I write it down. And then when it comes to the point where I am looking at that blank page, I just go to my book and I go, these are all kind of interesting starters. And none of them are complete ideas. A boat slowly rising to the surface of the water, that's not anything, but it's a start. I can play around. I can say, okay, well, what about if I shoot it with an arrow when it's rising? Does it get destroyed? What if it gets blocked? Like I can kind of start playing around with it and eventually work out, a mini game or something interesting from that. So that's my first idea. Write down your ideas, even if it's not in a book, just, with notes on your phone. And then when you do need to have to create an idea, you kind of have a whole selection of starting points to kind of go back to. So that's the first thing. The problem is sometimes you need to come up with an idea on a schedule. Sometimes you're told, right, I need a thing on this date, it's 2 weeks away, and you need to do it. Then it's kind of hard to say, I'm just going to live my life and I'm going to walk through the forest and wait to get inspired, because sometimes you've got to get something done at a timeline. So you do need to almost force an idea. So what I do then, and I kind of do this anyway, is pick the best time to get inspired. And I think the best time to come up with an idea is when you're falling asleep. So basically, anytime you're doing something where you're not taking in information and you're kind of essentially doing nothing is a great time to come up with an idea. nowadays that doesn't happen very much because, anytime you're sitting there not doing something, you immediately grab your phone and you check Twitter, you check Facebook, you do whatever you do on your phone. So it's harder to get a moment where you are just thinking by yourself. For me, it's generally if I'm in the shower or if I'm in bed. But the good thing about being in bed is you're literally in silence, in the dark, and you're just sitting there and you just have your thoughts. Also, when your brain is kind of drifting into sleep, it kind of like opens up a bit more and you kind of feel like you can think better. And there is like a scientific explanation for it. I'm not the person to give that to you because I don't fully understand it. But when you're kind of drifting from consciousness to unconsciousness, basically your brain is really active, and, it's a great time to come up with ideas anyway. So always have a phone or a book next to your bed, so the second you have an idea, make sure you write it down. And that is the time when you really do want to write it down, because otherwise you're definitely going to forget it in the morning. Because any idea you have at that point, if you don't write it down, your brain does not store it. So I've probably come up with about 60% of my ideas when I'm going to sleep. Like, honestly, it's the main place I come up with ideas, especially for like bigger episodes. All of my Stampy shorts and all of the ones I've planned that you haven't seen yet that, are coming. I've probably got about 6 Stampy shorts planned for the future. All that I've come up with when falling asleep. So it's a great time to come up with ideas completely not relevant to anything that's happened in the day. Your brain just drifts from one thing to the other, and eventually something interesting comes into your mind, totally unrelated to what you're doing, and you can write it down. So yeah, if you have to come up with something quickly, wait until bedtime and just sit there when you're trying to get to sleep and try and come up with a good idea. So let's say you've done that. You've got the beginning of an idea and you're like, right, let's go back to my boat. So I want to do something to do with boats rising up out of the water. Don't settle with your idea. So I think a lot of people think that I come up with an idea for a mini game and I'll think, right, this is the mini game, this is what it's going to be, and then, I just work out, what color I want it to be. But that's not the case. You start with a very simple idea, and it might be a good idea, it might be a really good idea, but the chances of you coming up with a perfect idea immediately, are almost impossible. You're not going to do that. So you get your idea and you think, how could it be better? How could it be worse? And that's when you start, iterating on the idea and developing it, and then making it into a proper idea, the best idea it can be, because, you're not going to create it as good as it could be when you immediately think about it. So once you have your idea, don't settle with it, question it and think about it, and then keep working on it and changing it until it's like exactly as you want it to be. And then my final point, which is something that I probably don't do enough, is to ask someone else's opinion. I'm sure you might look at your idea and think, right, this is perfect, this is what I need. But if you just go and show it to someone else, they might see something that for them is obvious but you just didn't think of, and they might say, that's really good, but what if you turned it this way round? Then it'd be better. And then you can go, that's a good idea. And then, you can kind of have, 2 brains instead of 1, or however many people that you ask. And try and hear other people's opinions. And don't be scared of showing them the idea when it's early in development, because that's kind of the time when it's more useful. Because if you have an idea and you start going down a road and developing it, and then someone points out something obvious that if you knew ages ago would have changed everything, then you've kind of wasted a lot of time working on something which you're eventually not going to use. So I know a lot of that might sound quite vague, because I'm trying to leave it as open as possible, because I don't know what you might need to come up with ideas about. So hopefully that can apply to a lot of different areas. So to recap, always be ready to come up with ideas no matter what you're doing. Just always, be ready to receive ideas, and when you do, write them down. The best time to come up with ideas, I find, is when you're going to sleep. Once you come up with your idea, don't settle with it. Keep developing it, keep changing it, making it better, and ask other people for their opinions on it. So that's kind of how I come up with my ideas. There's no secret special method. There's no website I go to and download my ideas, but hopefully that's a way just to think about things that might help you out if you do need to come up with ideas. But that is the end of this Let's Talk here. Hopefully this has been in some way useful to you. As always, leave suggestions down below for any future Let's Talk topics that I might do. But for now, I want to thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all later.